Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Daily Liverpool Podcast, brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. I'm Adarsh Ramchan and it's Crossover Thursday. Today's a special episode, as we'll be reviewing last night's Carabao Cup game against Brighton, as well as looking ahead to the Seagulls visiting Anfield on Saturday. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Jamie from the Daily Brighton team, who joins us on today's Crossover. Jamie, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm all good. Happy to be speaking to you and looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, no, it should be a cracking game on the weekend. And from the Liverpool team, we have Michael Lake. Michael, how's it going?
Yeah, we're good. I'm excited to talk about two different games, looking back and looking forward. It'll be interesting to see what our opinions about the different games will be.
Yes, no, definitely. So, as Michael said, in part one, we'll be looking at a review of last night's game in the Carabao Cup, where Liverpool won 3-2 at the Amex. In part two, we'll be looking at a preview to the game on Saturday, where the Brighton now visit us at Anfield. And then in part three, we'll be touching on score predictions. First of all, Jamie, how are you feeling after last night's match? I know obviously not an ideal outcome for you guys, but nevertheless, entertaining game. What were your main opinions of the game?
Yeah, I think we can take a lot of hope from yesterday's game. I think there were moments where, in the first half especially, we had a lot of the ball. We were on the front foot-ish. We created chances here and there. Tariq Lamptey, how's he missed the one-on-one? That could have been a catalyst for a better performance going forward. But there were moments where I think Brighton are weak, were kind of exposed in yesterday's performance. The playing behind, the directness of Liverpool catching us out a couple of times. And then the second half, let's just not even talk about the start. I mean, what has happened in that team talk at half time to get these lot basically to not perform in the first 55 seconds of the half. I don't know how that's possible. And then it just went downhill from there. And then finally they picked back up a little bit, gave us some false hope, and then let us down again. But other than that, time to look ahead rather than behind us.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was, to be fair, it was a big roller coaster game, up and down, end to end, lots of chances. Michael, I don't know what you thought from a Liverpool point of view. Obviously, clinical up front with Gakpo and Diaz getting the goals for us, but kind of leaky at the back. Maybe some concerns going into the game on Saturday.
Yeah, it was a virtually completely rotated team for us. Besides Robertson, that is a back four that some are coming back from injury and some are just out of favour. Especially like Jarell Quansah, he's had a bit of a shaky start to the season. I think he's lost a lot of confidence, especially after that Ipswich game. He doesn't seem like the same sort of player that was riding high last season. It was very unfortunate. It was his pass that we conceded the first one, and then he was very unfortunate for the deflection for the second one that we conceded. I think like these games are. It's the idea for Liverpool is we kind of play a rotated team and we're going to score one more than you, rather than setting up sort of a defensive block. I thought some of the players that came in, the understudies that came in, were really good. Tyler Morton in particular. I think this was his time to kind of shine and show that he can be one of those rotation players, and I think he did really well, especially for the first goal, that little dink over the top. But yeah, I'll shout out for Jaros as well in goal, making his first start for Liverpool. I think it was his first start because he came on off the bench for his first ever appearance, and then first start, and he made an unbelievable save, tipping it onto the post from Adingra's header. But yeah, I think there were definitely some question marks, especially from Robertson. I think he's being the most experienced person. Once Adingra got put onto that right hand side, he was starting to look a bit shaky.
Yeah, no, indeed. Actually, I want to touch on Adingra, because I thought from a Liverpool point of view, I thought he was Brighton's biggest threat, constantly running in behind, getting the ball and driving at Robertson. Obviously got the goal as well. Jamie, what did you think of his performance? Because he seems a player that, obviously last season was his sort of introduction to the Premier League. Now he's if he gets a clear run of games, and there's lots of competition for places at Brighton, but if he can get a clear run of games, he's going to be a great player, isn't he?
Yeah, me and Bless, who's on the Daily Brighton podcast, always have a discussion about who's better. I think Adingra, he thinks Yankuba Minter, and I would love, like, Carabao Cup is where Dingra has really shone. Like in the first round, he obliterated, or he took on. I'm trying to think who even played Wolves. Yeah, he dismantled Wolves comfortably, and then it was from there. And then this game, he got his next opportunity, was good again, but in the league, he's just not coming. Like he's not cut it when he started. It's only as a super sub that he's actually come on and done well. But I think this should hopefully give him confidence. Like you say, he was very direct. He got the goal to kind of worthy performance to showcase how good he was in that game yesterday. So it is good to see him on the score sheet, and hopefully he can carry that over to this weekend if he does start. And hopefully that'll be enough for Hertzler to think, oh, maybe Adingra is worth starting.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think he's definitely a dangerous player. It's good to have those options, I guess, from a Brighton point of view, because you got Minter, you got Mitoma, who I thought when he came on was super dangerous as well. So yeah, lots of options for you guys. In terms of another winger, but from a Liverpool point of view, Cody Gakpo, Michael, how brilliant was he yesterday?
I mean, he's got a right foot like a tractor engine. When he hit those two strikes, he just absolutely battered it past Steele. I think he's like this. I've said it in the past on the podcast that like this left wing position is his favoured position, and when he was playing under Klopp, like at that sort of striker or even centre mid positions, it didn't really sort of fit his style as much as he's a really good player on the ball. Like if you give him a little bit of space to shoot or even to dribble into, he is a tidy player. He can really do a job, and he's physically big, unlike Diaz. So when he comes up against bigger full-backs or bigger centre-backs in those wide areas, I think they are a little bit more hesitant to go in on him for a slightly different reason to if they were for Diaz. I think he is like he's made a very good case for him starting on the weekend. Obviously, it's going to be between him and Diaz. They both got goals, but the fact that Gakpo was able to finish both those chances so tidily, and he actually should have scored a hat trick because he did lay it off. It was a bit of a hospital pass to Sozabai, but he could have had a hat trick in this game if he wasn't selfish. So. I think he will start on the weekend, and I think he could really push on from here. I mean, we were talking about it before the podcast. He actually hasn't scored in the Premier League. He's a very much a cup competition merchant. So whether he can translate that or whether he might just become our cup guy, we don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, you say he could have scored a hat trick. I mean, even from the Tariq Lamptey bad touch where you're through on goal, and he should have buried that one. But I think, on your point about him looking much better at left wing than he does up top, I've seen that like all this season every time I watch Liverpool play. But I think that's come as well from the Euros. It's kind of a Euros hangover. I think that's where he shone at the Euros, showing what he can do as a left winger and how dangerous he can be out on that wing. And he's just basically carried that over from the performances I've seen anyway. And that performance yesterday epitomised that.
Yeah, we signed him as a left winger, didn't we? That was where he played for PSV, and that's where he seems to be most comfortable, even though he's built like a striker.
Yeah,
no, it's definitely good options for us to have. I feel like both teams have got tricky wingers, so it's going to be an interesting game on Saturday now, because we're going to be previewing that very shortly after this break.
The Global Sports Podcast Network is changing the face of football podcasts. With dedicated daily content for every Premier League team, women's football, fantasy football, and a daily Premier League wrap-up broadcast in 5 different languages. It's your one-stop shop for your daily football fix. Find GSPN wherever you find your usual podcast. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Amazing. So, Jamie, I want to come to you because obviously Brighton visit Anfield on Saturday. Big game, obviously for you and obviously for us because we're trying to get back to the top of the table. In terms of Fabian Hertzler, obviously he's come to the Premier League, the youngest Premier League manager in the league, I think since records began, and he's made such a good impression. What have you made of his start to life at Brighton, and obviously Brighton's start to the season in general?
Yeah, we get asked this actually quite a lot, and it is obviously because of how well we're doing, in terms of league position, and the start and the results he's got. They're undeniable. He's been exceptional. I think there are points in the season where perhaps we've been too stubborn in how he's played, but then I also, for most of the games, it's come with a result at the end of it. I think there was one game, and this is looking ahead to the Liverpool game. There was one game that we looked particularly weak in, and that was against Chelsea so far this season, where we were so stubborn with this high line, and they picked us apart with their pace. And that's Noni Madueke and Jadon Sancho and Nicholas Jackson. Not exactly the most technically gifted lot, but just quick. So this is where I kind of fear how we're going to be looking ahead of the game in Liverpool. Like if you do play Luis Diaz, who's got pace, Darwizzi, who's got pace, and Mo Salah, just all pacey guys, but also maybe not as much Darwizzi, but the other two have the technical ability as well to hurt you. So that's where I actually fear. But on Hertzler, the start he's had, I mean, you couldn't really, as Brighton fans, we couldn't ask for much better. We're sitting fifth in the league. We play entertaining football, and that's what we always say. With Brighton, you're expecting some good games at the end of it. So although we got battered by Chelsea, it was 4-2.
It was a very good game, yeah.
4-2, 5-2, whatever it was. And what a game against the next week, Tottenham, where it was a 3-2. And then after the international break, he did show that he can adapt a little bit, because we had a very much snatch a goal and defend for our lives performance against Newcastle when all of our players were just coming back from international duty. We had to play like a B team, as it were. So there is the adaptability there. And if you take away last week's performance where we bottled it against Wolves, an absolute horror show in the last 5 minutes, if that was another 3 points, I mean, we're sitting fourth in the league and looking towards the Champions League places.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's so funny in football. Like one moment just changes the whole complexion of a game. And if I think it's Weaver who plays that ball, if he plays it to anyone else other than Tommy Doyle, it's a goal for Brighton.
Even run it in the corner. Don't even get me started on it. I will go on.
I know. Well, I'm hoping for something similar on Saturday. Michael, I wanted to ask what's your opinion of Brighton this season? Because obviously they are under new management, like we mentioned, but they always seem to be an entertaining team. Also, a team for Liverpool that kind of been a bit of a bogey team. We kind of struggle against them sometimes. So, what do you make of their visit to Anfield?
Yeah, I mean, Brighton, I've always liked Brighton. I think it's a very smart club in how you guys recruit and how you guys are set up. Like, you've followed Graham Potter, who was a very successful manager, with Roberto De Zerbi, who's a very successful manager, and Fabian Hertzler, who is so far a very successful manager. All are also really young. I think that sort of energy that you guys are bringing to the league, and that youth that you like, these young ideas that you're bringing, is like so interesting. I mean, saying that, Herzl has been managing longer than three very established Premier League managers in Arteta, Iraola, and I think there's one other. Like, he's been managing for like 10 years almost, and he's 31. So he's got a lot of knowledge behind him. So I think when people point out his age, I think they're not quite looking at where the background of his age. I think also, like, attacking talent, like how the whole squad is composed of Brighton, it's really well like put together, and players like you've got the wingers that you have: Adingra, Mitoma, Minter, Gruder, Enciso. It's a difficult one to say, that last one. Enciso. I'm probably forgetting one or two more, but like, you've like those sort of wide attackers, you've arguably got too many. You've only got two wingers, and you've got about seven wingers to fill them. But yeah, I think Brighton are a really impressive team, and some of the tactical tweaks that Hertzler's been doing. I've been watching some videos about people talking about that, where he doesn't really like a formation and kind of just it's like do what you want.
Yeah.
And I think you guys have got the smart enough players to do that. And I think being a bogey team for us is just because they're a good attacking team who have good counter-attacking capabilities, and we're susceptible sometimes to getting caught out on the counter-attack. So I think it will be a really good game on the weekend. I think both teams will bring in their starters. Like Brighton will improve their midfield and a little bit of their attack. I mean, you had your starting centre-backs playing, but that sort of like core will change. We'll bring in a whole new defence, midfield, and attack. Basically, we'll change our whole team. So I think it'll be a completely different game. I don't think we can actually take that much from what was it, Wednesday night. About we can't really take much from it in terms of looking at what the game's going to be like on the weekend, because both managers are smart enough to make tweaks, and both managers are going to look at each other and see if they can find little bits to beat each other. So it'll be a really interesting game.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's interesting from a Brighton point of view as well. The players that you bring in for Saturday's game. I mean, Ruta didn't play on the weekend because I think it was during the week because he was cup tired, and then I don't think Baleba played unless I'm mistaken. Who I think is a really, really good player.
No, he didn't play.
So, Jamie, who do you expect to sort of come in from a Brighton point of view, and how do you think Hertzler will set up at Anfield?
Yeah, I think it will stick with his. Oh, it's actually an interesting one. I think it will stick with the four at the back. He played a lot of the three at the back at St. Pauli, which is what we anticipated him trying to play in the Prem, but he's not converted to that at all. So he'll stick with hopefully his usual defense. Or so I'll say. I think Estepinian might play instead of Kadioglu on the left. Van Hecker, and then Dunk if he's healthy, but it will be Igor if he's not. And that's where we're weakest. It's our sub centre back. Van Hecker is, and we've sung his praises on our podcast so many times, he's looks different gravy this season, whereas whoever's playing next to him, Van Hecker's basically his childminder. He's having to babysit Lewis Dunk or filling gaps for Adam Webster or whoever it might be, Igor. And then on the right, Veltman is the shorthand, the one that is always there. And it'll be interesting to see if he actually does play, because the thing that Veltman doesn't have is pace. And if you play Luis Diaz, who does have pace, then that's where the weakness will be. And then, yeah, like you say, Baleba's been unbelievable this season. He's been unbelievable. I'll leave that one for free. And then it's whether Ayari played last week. We've been given a couple minutes to Jack Hinchelwood. I can't see Matt Swiffer getting minutes just because what he did last week was criminal. And I think Brighton fans that were Brighton fans online, if he does start, will probably put his head on a stick. So that probably won't be happening. And then, yeah, the left wing will be Matoma, and probably will be Minter, and then Ruta up top. Cam, and then Welbeck up top. That's my predicted lineup, but I could be wrong, and I probably will be wrong. So feel free to give me hate after this and go, you know nothing about football. Feel free.
No, I don't think that's the case. No, to be fair, Brighton. I mean, I want to say Brighton have a bit of a pep roulette about them, but they do have loads of players, and you can never sort of guess which team they're going to play. Yeah. Also, I can sympathise with that as a fantasy football manager. Like when I put in João Pedro, he's never playing either. So I completely get where you're coming from. Michael, from a Liverpool point of view, obviously looking to bring sort of our main players back in. Van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Gravenberch, who obviously has had a brilliant start to the season as well. Run through your predicted lineup as well.
I mean, Kelleher in goal. He's the first choice for now while Alisson's out until the end of November. Trent, Konate, Van Dijk. The left back is where the biggest question mark for me is. Robertson played the full 90 against Brighton. Looked a little bit shaky when Adingra came onto the right hand side. And he has been a bit shaky over the last few games, so I would kind of want to see Tsimikas Tsimikas play at that left back spot, see what he can do, because occasionally he has absolute stormer games, and I think against a team like Brighton where he would have to be called upon, I think he is solid enough to be able to handle that. I think obviously midfield would be. I mean, Jones played the full game, so I'm going to probably guess it's going to be Gravenberch and McAllister with Szoboszlai just in front. We obviously learned that Szoboszlai is very key when it comes to playing our way, because when Jones was playing there, it wasn't nearly as effective. I do actually think after watching Trainioni play a little bit, he's actually got a little bit of Szoboszlai about him. He's like technical. He's actually massive for how young he is. He's 17 and he's like 6'2", or like, and he's got he does seem to have legs on him. So I think eventually he could be the successor to Szoboszlai, but at the moment I think he's going to have to stay. Then the left wing, you've obviously got a fight between Gakpo, who scored 2 goals, and Diaz, who scored 1 goal. I think you said about Veltman starting at right back. I think even though he's slow, I think Diaz kind of showed that when he's against someone who's slow like Partey, I think some of our tactics don't really help him out. So I'd maybe start with Gakpo, and then if we need him, Diaz off the bench, as frightening as it is. So I think that's a good option to go for. And I think Gakpo scoring 2 goals and should have got more. He kind of deserves to start. And then Salah on the right, obviously, and Darwin Núñez up front. I think with that high line that you guys play, Darwin could have a field day.
Yeah. Nicholas Jackson had a field day, so if Darwin Núñez doesn't have a field day, then you've got something wrong there, because Nicholas Jackson just was running in behind Lewis Dunk like he wasn't even there, just like acres of space. But you mentioned the one question I did actually want to ask you guys, obviously as people that watch Liverpool week in, week out, is how, because obviously I watched Curtis Jones against Chelsea and he was unplayable that day. Like, where has this guy come from? Just spawned into a different human being for that game at least. Slightly quieter last week against Arsenal. So who is actually the preferred option? Because I've not heard too much rave about Szoboszlai, even though he was so good at Leipzig.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I think a lot of Liverpool fans, my main opinion of Szoboszlai, right, is off the ball, his decision making is absolutely atrocious, and that's something he's going to have to improve. Like, whether it's his final pass, when to shoot, when to release the ball, it's just like he needs to work on that. But what he brings to the team off the ball, from like a defensive point of view, is his pressing, his energy. He's like 2 midfielders. He's got such a huge engine. He's like, I called him a Hungarian Henderson. He can sort of run about the pitch, do a good job. And I feel like against Arsenal, we missed his presence in the midfield. So there's like positives and negatives to his game, but I think he does frustrate a lot of Liverpool fans when it comes to his on the ball performance. I think I would like to cut him a bit of slack, because I think as well he's still a year into the Premier League. I think there is a player in there. I think if I was to liken it to a player that took some time to develop in the Premier League and now is flourishing, Odegaard took a couple of seasons. Now he's like Arsenal's best player. Maybe we might see something with Szoboszlai over the coming few seasons. Michael, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, he is still only 24. Like, he seems a lot older, and I think it's a weird one, because like he has the comparison to Henderson seems harsh, but like Henderson was actually a very skillful player at Sunderland. Like, as weird as that sounds, but like then he came to Liverpool and kind of became a more industrious midfielder. I think Szoboszlai can definitely unlock the skills that he had at Leipzig. I think he was very unfortunate to not score against you guys. It was a little bit of that bouncing pass that Gakpo gave him. He maybe should have done better, but like anyone, like if you ever had a bouncing pass towards you, to be able to control that and get it past 2 players and a goalkeeper, like I think he's unfortunate there. But I think I think he's one of those players that you kind of need to look past goals and assists. I think he is so integral to like how the team functions that and he facilitates, he makes those runs that leave space for players to run into to score the goals, or he covers where other people are making runs in behind. Like, he's so integral that I think when we play someone else there who's not quite as smart as he is, I think he's not. It's nowhere near as effective. And I think Jones, McAllister, and Gravenberch are all deeper players in my eyes, and we need to find that sort of attacking midfielder who can kind of fill in and do that similar role, just to give them a little bit more competition. And that's why I mentioned Trey Naoni. He's only 17, but he's already looking like a top talent. Every time he comes in, he almost bags, and looks like he's going to be a real proper talent for the future.
Yeah, no, it is interesting sort of on Szoboszlai, because I think I'm anticipating he'll start against Brighton. But yeah, he does cause a lot of Liverpool fans a bit of a headache. But hopefully, with more consistency, more games under his belt, he'll bring that to the table. Now, after the break, we're going to talk about score predictions for the game on Saturday.
Do you have a story that the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching new audiences who are engaged with your story? Well, it might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high-quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes the ums, ahs, you knows, and 22 other speech patterns, Zencastr makes it super easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Well, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. Do you have a story that the world needs to hear?
Brilliant. So, in terms of score predictions, Jamie, I'm going to come to you. Do you think Brighton can get a result at Anfield on Saturday?
Which version of me do you want? The optimist or the realist? Because
you know what? I'm actually I want the optimist, because when we had Forest on the podcast, right, they were like, no chance, we're not going to get a win. We have a one,
and then
they won. So you never know what's going to happen.
I'm going to be an optimist, and I'm going to go 1-0. We steal a goal on the counter, and then we sit back and defend. That's how I would play this game. I would just hope, because that's basically how we played against Newcastle. It worked a treat. We conceded possession, which is rare for us, because Hertzler loves to keep the ball. He loves to press high up the pitch, have a high line, and kind of dominate in possession. And I guess the new saying is defending with the ball. I would like to see us go back to the old school, the Steve Bruce style. Defend without the ball, boot it long, hope our pacey players get on the end of it, target old man Robbo if he is playing, or if you want Simicast there, just shrug him off the ball, use some strengths, and then snatch a goal. But that's what I'll go with. I'll go with 1-0, and then the realist will probably say 2-0 to you. But
do you have a predicted scorer? Because I feel like it might be Welbeck, because I think he's in brilliant form.
It's going to be that guy, Danny Welbeck. That guy, Welbs, mate. He's cooking. He is cooking. He's in front of the stoves, left, right, and centre. He's got a whole kitchen to himself. He's on fire this season. And I want to start a petition to get Danny Welbeck out of international retirement, to give him one last hurrah at the age of 34. For England. There we go.
I mean, new manager, so you never know with Tommy Tuchel. So maybe that.
I hope Thomas Tuchel is watching Brighton play and watching Danny Welbeck run games.
Yeah, maybe he is. He might be watching on Saturday. You never know. Michael, score predictions for the game on Saturday.
I don't think either team are keeping the clean sheet. I think just Brighton and Liverpool has been a goals affair for the last few seasons. I think it was January last season. Well, in the last 5 games, we kept 1 clean sheet, and that was in January last season. So I think it will probably be like a 2-1. I think that's the most safe bet. If I'm being a realist, 2-1 to Liverpool. But I feel like it could be 4-3 for all I know. Like these games kind of get out of hand very quickly, and I think if we're doing a little bit of the defending that we were on Wednesday, I think that might be the case actually. That it does get a bit out of hand, and both teams are just kind of playing basketball and going back and forth. But yeah, I'll probably go for like a 2-1, 3-1 sort of scoreline.
Yeah, bring back the goal fest of 3-all in 2022 or 2 seasons ago, whenever it was.
Yeah,
that's what we want.
That was a great game, to be fair, for the
Banger.
neutrals. Obviously, not for either of us, but
Stressful game for us.
yeah. No, to be fair, good result. And I remember Trossard just
Was on smoke. Yeah.
I'm going to go with. I think I agree with Michael. Don't think either team's keeping a clean sheet. I'm going to go 3-2, same as Wednesday. I don't know what who will score first or whatever, but I just think it'll be kind of a similar game. I don't really expect anything else from either team. Both teams want to attack, want to keep the ball, don't really care about defending. Well, less so Liverpool this season. We've been more defensive, but I'm going to go 3-2.
Yeah.
And that's all. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was about to say, the thing that worries me about Liverpool is how good defensively you have been this season, which is so un-Liverpool-like, I guess, for the last couple of years. Without Jurgen Klopp, I guess Arne Slot's really shored up that defence. I was looking earlier, best defence in the league and only 7 expected goals conceded. So that's why I was think it'll be probably 2-0 to you guys, realistically.
Yeah. But yeah, to be fair, in our last 2 games, we conceded 4 goals. I know we played you with a changed defence, but you never know. I feel that's why I'm going to go for 3-2.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's all for today's episode. Join us tomorrow for Friday Forecast, where the Daily Liverpool team will be further analysing the game on the weekend. Thank you all for listening, and a happy Diwali to all who are celebrating from both us at Daily Liverpool and at Daily Brighton. Maybe there'll be some fireworks on Saturday. Goodbye for now, and we'll see you all soon.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.